Google Maps on multiple occasions has been directly responsible for me finding gold deposits. Move over old dusty maps, the future is now. When it comes to finding gold deposits, research is key, and we no longer need a crystal ball. You can now just simply cruise Google Maps and lay eyes on the ground before you even leave the house. And that's what I had done. I was looking for new ground. I'd found some geological reports that suggested there could be a gold in an area I hadn't visited before. I jumped straight over onto Google Maps and discovered this in the nearby area. This is what's known as a surfaced area, where the old timers stripped all the topsoil off to sluice the gold-rich gravels hiding underneath. And the best thing yet, it was a little over an hour from my house, and it looked like there was a permanent water creek running right next to it. My grandma made me this beanie. With the essential items packed, I was on my way to find out whether or not this would be a bust or a bonanza. Gold prospecting is, after all, inherently risky. You don't know whether or not the ground is going to have any significant quantity of gold in it. Well, there it is. I've driven over an hour away from my usual goldfields to get to this little creek. And straight off the bat, I noticed it was very different to the geology I was used to. We had an incredibly soft granite-based bedrock and not a lot of gravels. And really, with this metamorphized granite, I don't know if we're going to get terribly much gravels. I think we're going to be looking for a sticky clay layer with maybe some quartz. So I headed to the private property where the surfaced area was, and asked for permission to prospect on his land with the promises of beer and riches to come. And having successfully deployed my extreme convincing skills, I set foot on the surfaced area for the first time. I think I'm going to nickname this creek Rabbit Creek. Yep. This is very clearly the surfaced area that I saw on Google Earth. Super indicative of hydraulic mining, where you've just got this barren Mars landscape and random small piles of tailings and things like that scattered around. This is a concentrator, and typically speaking, we would normally take samples out of here. So I might take a sample from up there and just wash it. Be a good place to start. But at some point, this whole thing was hydraulically mined for gold. So if there was gold here, there's probably some remnants of gold in the creek, and hopefully there'll be enough for us to actually make something of today. The ground is really different compared to the upper sections, and it actually has a little bit of gravel. What we're going to find out now though is if it has gold. Got plenty of heavies in there. I should mention, this is actually from that gutter I said I would take a test pan from. You know, this one. Ooh, we've got gold. No one get too excited, it's not exactly a bonanza city, but there are 2, 3, 4 little tiny flakes of gold sitting right there. And so now, job's on. Not always, but typically, the best gold is usually right at the head where that velocity drops off. But there is only one way to find out. The more test pans you do in any given area, regardless if you've been there or not, usually dictates how much gold you end up finding. Just trying to clear out a panning pool, and I'm looking in the bank. And this is super interesting because that there is tailings. It's all loose gravel. It's not compacted in, it's not shingled. All the rocks aren't facing the same way like you get when the water's been flowing over for a really long time, and it's loose. See how loose that is? That means all of that was washed at some point, but probably washed onto this layer here. The entire bank is full of it. There's more of it up there, all the way around to this big deep pool. My experience in other areas is when they do a lot of hydraulic mining, which is what they've done here, that rubble layer, that tailings layer, tends to collect gold where it makes contact with the clay layer they wash onto. So we might be in for gold. There's almost no pea gravel. That's the only piece of rock that's left in the bottom of the pan. Normally I'm used to getting a lot more than that. And so far the black sands have been a lot easier to move than what I'm used to out of the granite basin that is Reedy Creek. So let's find out if there's any gold on the actual creek. Ooh! We got a flake. Is there more? Oh, there is more. Ooh! Oh! There is a lot more. What? That was precisely what I was hoping for. We just got good gold. That is coarse stuff. Much, much coarser than when I normally go. And we got that in the first proper pan out of the creek. But as always, the question is, can we do it again? Peaking early in prospecting is a real problem. Usually if you find good gold straight away, it's a struggle for the rest of the day. That was, however, not the case in this situation. Same spot, second pan. Do we have gold? Because if we got 2 for 2, that'd be awesome. Sometimes you just hit pockets at the start and it's bitterly disappointing when you do your next pan. Nope, it's exactly the same. 100% the same. The gold is coarse and there is a lot of it. Wow. Oh, satisfaction. Chris happy. Ladies and gentlemen, we had gratification. More times than not, when you come to places like this, you will find a little bit of gold, but not normally in that quantity that early. And the results like that just kept coming in from this one inside bend. Came in a little bit further, and the gold got a little bit better. Private permissions are generally awesome. You gotta excuse the crack in my camera lens at the moment. I gotta get that replaced. The reason private permissions are awesome is because you're the only person on here. There's no one else on here unless you're a shovel dogger. The gold that I picked up on that inside bend doesn't really extend down around the corner, and it also doesn't extend up here. So it's concentrating on that corner. And I thought, you know what? There's another corner here. Le shovel, le shovel. Them some chunky little pieces. Now I would be willing to bet if I poke around on the bigger inside bend, which I'm standing on, maybe we'll get even more gold. The hopes of more gratification were high, as they should be on gold prospecting trips, until you don't get any gold. Then it's just crushing bitter disappointment. Not terribly much black sand in there. I wonder if it's magnetic. We shall find out later, I guess. Gold? Only a little bit that time. With the results being a little bit patchy, many pans were done. The idea here is to build up a mental picture of what's going on in the ground, and you can't do that from just a couple of pans where you found gold. You have to go elsewhere. If I start running that through a river sluice or even a high banker, with the quantity of paydirt I've got, it'll add up very nicely. And so that's exactly what I did. I went back to the car, grabbed my river sluice, and got ready to get some good gold. I've made an executive decision to go back to the car and grab the geo sluice to set up in the creek next to the first place that I found. You have to take advantage of when you're on the ground. I don't know when I'm going to get back here. I don't know if the property owner is going to be favorable to me coming back again. I have the sluice box in the car. This is easy ground to dig. Let's get after it. The soil here was mostly sand, so I didn't have too much trouble with the larger rocks clogging up the sluice box, and therefore I didn't bother classifying. The sluice box did, however, allow me to run a far greater amount of paydirt very quickly. And soon we had golds. In fact, I managed to move so much dirt I had to take another test pan because the soil was changing. And the last thing I wanted to do was come all of this way, do all of this work, and just run sand for the sake of running sand. I'm not about that sand life, yo. Kinda hit a new layer of clay, and so I thought it might be an upper layer of that bank that's slumped in, and we better check it because there's no point running it if it's got no gold in it. Oh, but it does have gold in it. Oh, yes it does. Those are nice pieces. Very nice pieces. Yes, yes, yes. Alright, they can just go straight into the sluice box. Having found this spot on Google Maps not 12 hours beforehand, I was pretty excited to see this kind of gold coming out of the ground. Every test pan I'm doing, I'm getting 5 good colours. And my sluice box should be capturing most of them. That's my first riffle. I just cleared some of the overburdened stone out, and you can see the gold loading up in there already. I've done about 50 shovels worth. Five specks per shovel. 50 shovels, 5 5s are 25, that should be 250 specks of gold. Eventually it was time for me to head home, and therefore we had to clean out the sluice box, recover our gold, and then make tracks. Now you gotta remember, I found this on Google Maps, and it has literally led me to gold. So whatever we get today is fantastic. But I think it's not going to be halfway too bad. Normally I would tell people not to clean cons up on a creek. I'm going to listen to my own advice. I just want to clean it back enough to see what kind of gold we may have got. And let's be real, the sand here is really easy to deal with, so it's not like Reedy Creek. We could probably get away with panning it down a bit. And a couple of little swishes later, and we were seeing gold in the corners. One-handed reveals like this are always a little bit difficult. That's as far as I want to take it down on the creek. We'll just quickly pan it back and we'll see if we can see any golds in there. We should see some because we've already seen some in the corner. Oh yeah! It's shining through very bright. Oh! Holy crap. Google gold. Google gold be good, yo. That's not even including what I got in my snuffer bottle from just prospecting. I'm tempted to reset and do more shovels, because that's bloody good. With results like this, it was time to go home and clean up. Then I can get it on the scales and eat some tacos. As usual, this video is sponsored by The Old Moldy. That's my own company where we sell gold, gemstones, paydirt, and a whole bunch of other stuff so you can get prospecting in your very own living room. The website is linked below and there is a series of products in the videos. Check them out. Every single sale helps create videos just like this one. And that right there is the gold that I managed to recover for a little adventure on Google Maps. Compared to the gold that I get around my local area, this is much coarser and very bright, indicating that it's probably quite high purity. At a guess, I'm thinking we got maybe half a gram there, which is about 80 Australian dollars at today's gold prices, but we'll get it on the scales and find out for shoresies. And while I get the scales, you should check the subscribe button because YouTube still be unsubscribing people. The gold's all ready to go. It's not a bonanza city, but it's way more gold than I was expecting to go and find on a prospecting trip, so I'm hoping that we hit that half gram. Well, there's our half gram, a little over, and we've still got more gold to go. Ooh, that chunky gold adds up quick. 0.68? I actually have to do some maths on that. The gold price is currently 161 Australian dollars per gram, meaning that that gold is worth $109. That covered my diesel, my fuel, and even a little bit of my time to go out and prospect that creek. Google Maps for the win!